are listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. I'm Chris, and as ever, I'm joined by my good friend Clem.
Hey, everybody. And today at work in a car, so I won't speak too much. Sorry.
Yes. What a terrible shame for everybody. Yes, so it's, we're recording at strange hours. Clem's stuck in a traffic jam in his car, but obviously he's hands-free, very safely talking with us. So the apologies, the audio quality may not be the best. So we're just recording a very, very quick episode, very short episode. And we have, very excited to say we have Claudio Schäfer with us. Schäfer is a German word for shepherd. And Claudio, hi Claudio.
Hi.
Hello. So Claudio is a member of the Deadzone community here in Germany, who Clem and I were totally unaware of. So it's very exciting to make connections. So there's an event coming very, very soon in Bavaria, and we just wanted to get Claudio on just to have a quick little chat. And hopefully we can get a few more people along to the event, which would be great. So sorry, Claudio, I have a habit, as I'm sure you're aware, of talking a lot. So why don't I hand over to you? Why don't you tell us where you come from, where you live now, and give us a brief gaming history of you?
Sure thing. First of all, thanks for having me. And I can handle people who talk very much and very longly. So I'm the same, no problem there. I'll just take over here the podcast. So I'm Claudio. I'm from Germany, living in Regensburg in Bavaria. So maybe you know Bavaria for the beer, but it's also where I live. So yeah, now you know that. I'm playing Mantic Games and Deadzone and wargaming in general for a pretty long time. I'm getting 33. I'm years old now in May. And I think I've started with 13 years old with the Lord of the Rings Two Towers set. So quite some time now that got to the shops 20 years ago, maybe, with a few breaks because, if you get older, you have other interests. But coming back in my 20s again for more wargaming. And I've started, as probably many, with Games Workshop. As I said, Lord of the Rings first, and then 40K. Then I got fed up with 40K. And then there came the Deadzone First Edition Kickstarter. I jumped in, got, I think, the biggest pledge you can get with every factions back then, and the boosters and everything, and it was just really, really hyped. All my savings went into that Kickstarter, and I'm happy that the game was so good, because else maybe I wouldn't be wargaming anymore. So I started with all factions, loved the game in the first edition. It had its problems, but it was really fun. And I think the core mechanics, the 3D aspect, the close quarters fight was just what I wanted. And fast forward nearly, I think, 10 years ago now, I'm still here, and I'm even on the rules committee for Deadzone. So yeah, I think it's a game I really, really like, enjoy, love, and always hope that more people will try it out, because it's just awesome.
For me, I honestly think it's the best game I've ever played in terms of the mechanics.
Yeah, I definitely have to be on your side there, because I think it's just so fun and fast. And many games say it's fast-paced and it's easy to learn, hard to master. And I've played many, many war games now, and I really have to say, for me, it's the best game. It's really fast. It's really fun. And I think I've introduced a few people to the game who beat me in my first games when I've showed them the game, and not because I'm a bad player, I hope, but the game itself, if you're just looking for the basics, it's so easy, and then the tactics, the strategies just open up themselves in front of you. There are a few things you can do better if you played more games, if you're more experienced. But the core mechanics are so easy, you don't have to think about them. You can start thinking about the tactics, and I think it's one of the biggest strengths of Deadzone.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. And you mentioned, obviously, you basically put all your eggs in the basket of Deadzone. You got as much as you could. Are there any factions that are your favorite, or have you changed over the years?
Woo, reps. I think
podcast.
Yeah. Shout out to That's on the podcast there. I think, to be honest, reps were my main faction from the beginning. I loved the look of the enforcers, and some others, but reps were always in my heart. The underdog, the many alien species working together. If you played first edition, they were the worst faction because they had their personal missions. Every faction had their personal mission and objectives, and they were so damn hard. If you don't like the Scour mission we have in Deadzone right now, they nearly only had Scour missions. So there's that, but it was fun. It was thematic. Good that it's gone now. That they are a good faction, equally as skilled as other factions. But I love the theme and I love the look. They are a bit outdated now and very, very hard to get, but they are and will always be in my heart as, I think, my main faction, although I haven't played them that much in 3rd edition. So reps, absolutely love them. Enforcers, I think, were my second faction. I really liked the look of it, and the 1st edition Kickstarter was focused on them. Peacekeepers, hard plastics. Also, the old PVC ones looked great. The sniper, I really like the models and the way they play. I wasn't that much into Asterians and Marauders from the first 6 factions. So I also like Plague and Forge Fathers because gribbly monsters and space dwarfs. So I had to make the cut, and the cut were the Marauders and the Asterians. Since then I've started a little Marauders strike team, which grew over time, and now I have plans for Asterians. I think the only faction I don't really own. I own them, but I don't really have a strike team for them. So yeah, all in all, I have, I think, every faction. So yeah, Asterians next on the list.
Asterians, to be honest, looking at the box of Asterians, I really thought that would be, I just didn't think that was for me. I didn't like the look of the models, and then I picked a few up and I really like them. I think it's an age-old problem Mantic have had. I think they're getting better now, but when you buy a box of models, that it's not cheap, and you get them and you're surprised at the quality, I think it's a difficult position to be in. It's not a good spot to be in, right? And I really felt that with the Asterians, but I think, these sort of mech-like, spindly, they're, I don't know. And then you get them and you go, wow, these are really cool. These are really, really cool. And they've got a cool play style as well. Cool. So I think after all that, Claudio, I think we're agreed that the Maison Labs are the best faction.
I don't know if you've read my mind, but I think Mason Labs are the most played faction in 3rd edition for me. I really, really like them at the end of 2nd edition. I think because they are so similar to the reps. You can have many bodies, many 5-up shooting dudes. You have a few monsters. You have fast infantry melee. You have options, and you can say to yourself that you're the good guy, but in reality, you're the bad guy. So there's that.
Hey, look, if you know someone else who can find a better quality face cream, and the only downside is that we create a few zombies here and there.
It solves some work-related problems too. So you have nice skin and some cheap workers. Win-win.
That's a very good point. Yeah, they have a very interesting HR department in the Maison Labs. But Yeah, for me, I mean, honestly, Maison Labs are one of my favorite factions in any game, and I do. I've got what I think probably the strike team I played the most is Maison Labs at 200 points. I have Dr. Coigne as my leader. I then have 2 of the Abominations, I think they're called. I always get that wrong. And then I have a load of lab techs.
Yeah.
Aberrations, thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
And then I have a load of lab techs because to me they're kind of on the down low. They're some of the best because they don't have any. I was going to say unit strength. That's not right. They don't give off any VPs when they get killed. They can hold down objectives. I think that they can, push an opponent's model 1 cube, which can be massive. And they're so cheap. I think the lab techs are amazing.
Yeah, I think. What is great with the lab tags is with Coiner, obviously, you get more threat out of them if they die. You don't care if they die. They post 7 points, so it's for the profile. It's rather high, but it's like the balancing out of having 0 victory points.
And you get a free zombie out of it if you want one.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way there to don't get overwhelmed too much by 0 victory point models. They have 2 HP and only a 6 up survive, but they can get lucky against 5 up shooting troops. So
it happens.
They are a pain to deal with, and I really like to take a few of them too. I have to say I'm more a fan of many shooty guys, because they are never seen as a threat, but they can run on objectives. They can rapid fire, which is also
good at
great.
The game, and you play well and you position them properly.
True, you get oftentimes the extra die for height, and they are just so versatile. And having just the security guard, the ranger, and the Blackwing as options, you probably have everything you need for your own playstyle, I think.
Which leader do you go for, Claudio? Did you go for the head of security guy, who I've never used?
I think yes, I've run in 2nd edition. I've run mostly the guard commander Graves, the security head of security. Yeah, because that rapid firing for free doesn't seem that good, but in a list which is combined arms with close combat units and the shooty units, having been able to shoot something and rapid firing on the sniper and then charging it or something like that, or even rapid firing on other melee units from the opponent can really help. And he's so cheap, durable for his points, and if you're not so dependent on your splat, on your army special, it can help. Because with Coiner, sometimes you're just going for, I have to have those dice right, because else my tactic is gone. And I think sometimes not having the greatest synergies special ability can help freeing you up a bit while playing.
I have had games where I didn't get a single splat, and I was re-rolling dice going, come on, I need a splat, and it just doesn't happen. I mean, it's rare, but it can happen, right?
Yeah. And speaking of that, I've played now a lot in 3rd edition cyborg lists. I love them, and I will be taking one of them. Oh no, I've said it, to the tournament. They can be pretty nasty, but they are also dependent on your special ability dice, because they get much better if you have your synergy going on with them.
Which leader will you take?
I will be taking the Cyborg Prime.
Nice. Yeah. Who I'd completely forgotten about. There's Dr. Simmons. I've got to paint up my Dr. Simmons, and I have got the Dreadball team, so I've got the cyborgs, and they're somewhere in my to paint box.
You have to try a cyborg heavy list. The cyborgs themselves are good, but with a prime, you can get really nasty results. Also, don't forget, Maison Labs can buy adrenaline shots. So extra movement for 1/1, movement and sprint speed for just a few points. I think 2 points on Cyborg Alphas, who can then reactivate turn 1 a 5 cube movement if you want to. Really nasty.
It sounds nasty. Super. and you mentioned briefly, I think we can talk about Deadzone all day, but you mentioned briefly you do play other Mantic games. Would you like to speak to that for a bit?
Yeah, I think the first Mantic minis I've owned were the Elven Kings of War, I think tall spears, the typical spearman. And I really like the aesthetic, speaking of Assyrians and being a bit like fiddly. But I like them, played them in another game, but I think I started with Dwarf King's Hold. For those of you who know Mantic for a bit longer, I loved playing Dwarf King's Hold, dungeon crawler, 1 versus 1 game, so wargaming, dungeon crawler hybrid. Got many more fantasy figures from Mantic just for that game. And then that escalated a bit. I thought, wow,
so
Kings
we
of War,
played that,
second
so
edition.
Dungeon Saga, right, Claudio?
Yeah.
So we played that last weekend in Berlin for the first time ever, in my case. We played one of the scenarios. Yeah, we really enjoyed it. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, spoiler, I think everything for Dungeon Saga there is. So
yes.
It was when the Kickstarter for Dungeon Saga came out and went live, it was a natural for me. I loved Dwarf King's Hold. It was a real dungeon crawler this time, and I really looked forward to that. And I enjoyed playing through it piece by piece when it got delivered. It was a great experience. I wasn't that much of a board gamer until then, and it opened up board games and dungeon crawlers for me, which I think I'm really happy about.
Amazing. Did you see the new Kickstarter?
Okay, question. Do you think I've backed that one or not? Yeah, sure. Ultimate Pledge with the dice game on top. It was a no-brainer on my part. I have so many fond memories of Dungeon Saga, so I'm really looking forward to the new, a bit better Origins, I think, because Dungeon Saga is a bit clunky here and there, even though I really enjoyed it and played with Adventurous Companion, so with random dungeons and so on. But you had a few house rules there to make it a bit more smooth. So yeah, I think Origins is a great way for Mantic to restart the brand, to make it more future-proof, I'd say, and also more in line with today's game mechanics, I'd say.
Yeah, so it's everything you loved, but with the kind of janky corners shaved off with some more modern design sensibilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I haven't tried Origins, so I hope it will be that way, but I'm pretty sure it is. So yeah, and I think Dwarf King's Hold and Dungeon Saga were both also entry points for me for playing Kings of War 2nd edition then, to really go big. Started with Undead because I really, really like the skeletons and zombies. And I've bought more zombies and ghouls for Dwarf King's Hold. So I had the regiment boxes there only for that little game. So I just had to double up on my investment and dive into Kings of War. And I really enjoyed it and got a few of my friends playing tabletop games with me again, also with Kings of War because of the ease of the game and for some of them for painting and multi-basing. So the hobby aspect was great. I have to admit I have the 3rd edition books and everything, but I've only played once because I just didn't have enough time. I think too many other games there, but yeah, that's how it goes.
It is an issue. Having all the games and just not having the time to play them is a thing, right? Yeah, I mean, at the moment we seem to be playing more Kings of War. It is a fantastic game. Ambush has made a huge difference. So I don't know if you've checked in the Big Red Book, but it's basically Kings of War, but with slight changes to the list building, so you can take smaller armies. And it's got a load of new people in, and it's amazing how fun small scale Kings of War is. It feels just as fun as full fat Kings of War, except you can play 3 games instead of 1.
I think it's such a smart move because I've tried to introduce other people to Kings of War with smaller games before in 2nd edition, and it always again felt a bit clunky because it's written for larger battles. And I think Ambush is great. I've read the rules. I've seen the boxes, which are a great price, great entry point. So I have to try it out because, as you said, quicker games in between. Not that large armies to paint. We all know that pain. Yeah, I have to give it a go at some point in the near future, for sure.
I think there's definitely a whole load of people who just, getting into Kings of War was just impossible. Just looking at how many models you'd have to paint, I think a load of people just said, no, can't do it. Whereas with Ambush, it really is possible. Will you have to, how's your army based? Will you have to start sawing units in half?
No, I have made my own traces. So because I always wanted to have my minis on their square bases they belong on, because of Dwarf King's Hold, other dungeon crawlers, and so on. So I've never really, and a few times I've done real multi bases. So for me, it wouldn't be that much of a problem to just get other trays.
Yeah. Did you ever try? Did you ever try Vanguard, Kings of War Vanguard?
For sure. There was a time Vanguard was, I think, my main game. Also because a few friends here in Regensburg, locals, tried it out with the Kickstarter. I've said it will be a great game. It's fun. It's a low model count. If we don't have enough time for Kings of War or enough time to paint, let's do that. And I've always liked many factions in the Panithor universe, so it was ideal for me to get not every faction, but many. Also out of like Abyssals from Dungeon Saga and so on, with a few additions. It's easy. So I really enjoyed it. It takes a bit longer than I would have expected on the long run. If you play Vanguard, it's not from the time you need, it's not that skirmish. So that was a point where we started playing Deadzone a few more times. And when you get 2-3 Deadzone games while the other group is playing one Vanguard, it's a bit harder to get on the table.
You look over and see them fiddling with their tokens and go, let's play another game of Deadzone.
Yeah. So I really enjoy Vanguard. Played a campaign, a short one, and also one of the newer players who was a Vanguard player got into Deadzone because there are some similarities, and I think Ambush is now replacing Vanguard a bit as an entry point level. Let's see where Vanguard is headed in the future, but I think it's a solid game system which I really enjoyed playing.
You made a great point there. I think because now Ambush is the logical entry into Kings of War, I feel more like Vanguard can be its own thing. It doesn't have to serve as the, which it never should have been because people say it's a good game, but everyone is always confused because it's not Kings of War Light, right? It's a completely different game. So I think
it's almost more complex than Kings of War, right?
Yeah. So
true,
I think
true.
Now it doesn't have to pretend to be Kings of, an entry into Kings of War. It can kind of be its own thing and maybe be more narrative. And I'd be interested to see what they do next with it, having never played a game of Vanguard myself.
Oh, I went to the UK to I think 1 or 2 tournaments just to play a bit more Vanguard with a buddy. So to Manchester, the Weight of Fire guys. And I really enjoyed it also on a tournament level. Not that I'm super competitive, but just having a few scenarios, different armies, different strategies to play against. I really enjoyed it. So
it's playing against new factions, new players, new strategies. Yeah, I mean, Clem and I are not the most competitive of people, but it's just
No, we are, but we suck at the games.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I think everyone always says he's not competitive if he's just losing all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. It's all truth. Yeah, exactly. We're not very good at the games, but yeah, just as you say, just having kind of 3 games in a day where you're, playing against new factions, new opponents, making new friends is pretty cool.
For sure.
Cool.
So talking, I think we have to be a bit quicker about the other games. I just list them and you can comment on that. I have Armada, Kings of War Armada here. I have to say I've painted it up a Basilian fleet from the beginning, not had the time to play it. I have the solo rules, always wanted to play them solo. I have a ghost fleet painted up to play against. Just, never happened, but always looking at Armada and read the rules.
Similar to us then, to be honest. Yeah, similar to us.
Great. Mm. Then I've played the proper Warpath of quite some games with the also with the multi-bases and thing, and it was great fun. It was more balanced than the old Firefight. Huge battles which were over pretty quickly, but always a time investment still. So we always went back to Deadzone. I think that's the biggest problem with all other games. We always end up playing Deadzone at some point, and then we just play Deadzone for a few months, and then we play a few other games again. And the new Firefight, I've got everything 2 books. I've only played once still. Shame on me. But I have Forge Father Army painted up with a few tanks, half tracks. So everything ready to go. Need more time.
Amazing. And do you want to talk a little bit about your gaming group there and maybe just talk a little bit about the Deadzone weekend?
Yeah, sure. So I went to school, not in Regensburg, but half an hour or nearly an hour away from here in Straubing. And there I've met a few people with whom I've played my first wargaming games. And still to this day, they are the ones with whom I play the most. But they have kids and other like adult things, work, and so on. So time is limited. We only see each other. We try to see each other like once a month, but it's more like once every 2 months to be honest. So it's a bit harder. But here in Regensburg, I have a few other friends I've always played a few tabletop games here and there, or pen and paper role playing, and now with like Deadzone 3rd edition, I've managed to get them over to play Deadzone a bit more, so that's great. And then we have in Regensburg the Remata, which is a club, Regensburger Magic and Tabletop Club. I think most of them are Magic the Gathering players, but there are also quite a few board gamers and war gamers in general there. So they are organizing this event next Saturday, which I'm really, really looking forward, because we've had 2 tournaments for Deadzone organized by them and Volker. Maybe some of the US listeners will know Volker Jakobsen. He also goes to Adepticon and so on. So he's organizing the tournament, and it's just like a fun gaming day with a prize at the end, and not hardcore gaming, just everyone wanting to get a few more games in, seeing a few more people, because the community or Deadzone is I think in Germany very, very local. So you have your group of friends you play with, but there isn't a big national scene or something like that, maybe.
I've never
not
actually...
Yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Not
exactly.
yet.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So I've never actually seen, to my knowledge, a Deadzone event in Germany. So I think you mentioned you've had 2 events previously, but then of course COVID happened. And is it limited to 12 players, or is there a number you're expecting?
As far as I know, it isn't limited. Because it's only limited by the terrain and mats, but we're all like throwing together our collection, so that wouldn't be a problem at all. Over me alone, I've got quite a few tables I can get over the 10 years gaming ready. So I think. Right now, no, it's limited to 16 players. Okay, sorry, my bad. But I think right now we're about, last that I've checked or known, about 12 or something. So there should be some room left there. The last times we were also about 10 or 12. It was more of a local flyer. We have a Deadzone Germany, Austria, Switzerland, so German-speaking Deadzone group, where it was shared. So not a big event per se, but more of a flyer for interested people to come there.
Amazing. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not available. I'd absolutely love to come. But yeah, Claudio, I think we'll probably have to get you back on after the event to just talk us through how it all went, if you're up for that. But yeah, and it's part of the reason, obviously, for reaching out is just, in the future, hopefully we can make something happen and have an event or have a gaming weekend or something like that.
Yeah, I'd love to. I think the first 2 tournaments were like a test run to see if there is any interest like in the locals, because as I mentioned, they just, a few of them from the Remata club just picked up Deadzone and went like, yeah, maybe there are a few more people who are interested. Over the internet, over Facebook, they just noticed that I myself and a few others locals here were playing Deadzone because we didn't knew from each other. So that was great to get a bit more together. And I think having more regularly such events, days would be great to get the German network out there, to have a few people notice that there are the games played, that there is a day where you might have to travel a few hours, but hey, if it's Deadzone and you want to play it and meet new people, then maybe it's worth it for a weekend. Because I went to Manchester, I think 3 times, just to connect with my friends, or now friends, in Manchester. The first time I went there, I only knew a few from Facebook groups and Way to Fire YouTube videos. So it was a test for me, and it was great. And now I'm really happy that I can call quite a few British people my friends. And I think that's the goal of gaming and getting to those events. So hopefully now that we have this gaming day upcoming, the next one will happen again at some point, where we can maybe invite a few more people all over Germany, or also Austria or other countries here, or even from wherever you want to come, of course.
I think it makes complete sense, right? Like that's exactly what we're all about. And another thing that I've noticed is there's a lot of people out there who bought a starter and maybe are playing with their neighbor or family or close friends, and they're not necessarily super connected to other players. But as soon as you advertise or make it known that there is a gaming event coming up within a reasonable distance, then they can potentially organize themselves and travel even a couple hours or even a bit longer, right, if it's over the weekend. And so it's really interesting for me to see some events actually start to pop up, because I'm sure there's kind of a snowball effect. Like the more events there are, the more people will realize, okay, I actually like this game, but now I can also play it. It's not just with my neighbor or like with my only friend locally who wants to play it. I can also get a full gaming weekend every now and then, and it brings in more people into the game, I'm sure. So,
and I think that's exactly why we jumped on this opportunity, to be honest, Claudio, is when we see there is a Deadzone event, and well, it's not just us that loves this. And I think it's the whole reason that the podcast started. I'm near Frankfurt, Clem's in Berlin, but I spend so much time, and so does Clem, locally trying to get other people to love this thing that I love. Whereas just chatting to Clem, he loves it as much as I do. So it's brilliant to meet someone, you just spend time with someone who is invested in this as you are, so it's great to reach out. And I'm already thinking, next time you have an event after this one, perhaps Clem and I can come, we can bring Trent, maybe we can bring Manuel, we can bring a few of our friends down. Maybe we can actually do a recording at the event kind of thing and do that kind of thing, but we'll have to see. But it's just exciting to see other people are as excited about these things as us, Yeah,
I think I totally agree. It's a stepping stone, in the right direction. We have, I think with third edition, there was quite some hype on the internet, content creators, but also there is, I think, the biggest German Facebook group for tabletop, or we call it in Germany, we call it tabletop gaming, which is board gaming for you guys. So, but we don't call it wargaming, we call it tabletop. And there is a tabletop network, which is pretty big. Germany is really focused on Warhammer 40k, but Deadzone did hype up quite some people. And I think the biggest problem with other games, which aren't from the biggest guys, are people saying, well, I really like that game and the rules are great. I like the models, I like the fluff, whatever, but I don't have anyone to play with. And it's always hard, as you said, to find people who want to play it, to say, please invest your time and money into this game and not your game because this is better. It's always a weird conversation you're having there
But at the same time, I'm sure those people are out there, because I know for a fact when the third edition starter dropped in Berlin, we organized a group order. And I think we had 4 or 5 starters, maybe something like this. I don't remember. And then we ordered it with our local gaming store, so Battlefield Berlin. And I've asked them, so, hey, how many starters are you ordering and how many did you sell? And they had dozens of starters that they sold on release day. Not just to us, but to random people, some in Berlin, some probably elsewhere in Germany, because obviously they also ship all over the country and probably further out in Europe as well. But people did buy the starter, right? So they are out there. It's just, I guess we need a few sparks here and there to organize the community.
Yeah, which is going to be us, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
If no one else, then
let's do stuff. Yeah,
because I think Clem makes a really good point, because I think people are hyped, see that other people and content creators, etc., are hyped, get the starter, see the game is great, and then it lands on the shelf because they're going to the gaming group who play something else again. And to get those people playing, to get those maybe to an event, to have them an incentive to paint something up, to build something up, to play a few games locally and then go somewhere, it's always a great motivator. And I really hope that is the future for German Deadzone players. And I think for Kings of War, which worked great, was the German rulebook, which was sort of after a very long time. I know it's very expensive and probably in the far future, but I think Mantic now has a foot stepped into this door of Germany with a German rulebook, and because there are quite a few people who just don't like playing or reading rules in English, and it's understandable.
Yeah, totally understandable. I mean, I can understand it from Mantic's point of view. I mean, what I always think about, so Clem and I go to the Germany GT, the last few years. Mm-hmm. You look around the room there's Clem and I generally have a Mantic army. Sebastian has a Mantic army, but actually, do you know what? It's a room full of GW models. So I can, from Mantic's perspective, I do kind of feel like, us people in Germany who love this stuff, we've got to put our money where our mouth is to a certain extent and kind of meet them halfway. We can't just expect Mantic to spend a load of money to make things happen when we're not showing that want, that desire.
I mean, for the I'm not. So you said there is a Deadzone German edition rulebook for 3rd edition, right?
No, there isn't.
Not yet. So I know
I would hope for
the French version. What happened is there was a crowdfunding campaign, actually, I think 6 months ago, maybe a year ago.
Not even that, I think, buddy.
Yeah, not so long ago. And I mean, that's kind of like if you organize the community properly, then you can get some support. And then like the crowdfunding, I think in that case kind of makes sense. And then you can fund the translation. And it's kind of a chicken and egg issue in a way. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's absolutely an investment that is worth it for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy always to say, there is no one playing, or there isn't much available maybe in local gaming stores, or in only the maybe 1, 2, 3 biggest online sellers have Mantic stock, and maybe it isn't as well organized as you'd wish for, and so on and so forth. So it's harder to get those games or those minis. Then you won't see that it played, or the minis that much. So Mantic won't invest, obviously, or gaming stores won't. So it's hard to break the cycle there. Yeah? But I think Deadzone has something else than Kings of War doesn't have, because Kings of War, I think in Germany, most players came from Warhammer Fantasy battles and have their armies in their shelves. Deadzone, you can play it with proxies if you like, but I think Deadzone is very unique also now in the appearance and the factions, that it's harder to proxy, which is great for the game because it has more of a known own fluff and more own feel, and so you want to get those enforcers, you want to get those forge fathers, those nameless, because
and also whenever you see a table somewhere, this is Deadzone.
Yeah,
this is not any random sci-fi game or anything.
Yeah,
like you recognize the terrain, you recognize all the stuff pretty quickly.
I think Deadzone is if someone is playing Deadzone and you're just walking by casually and you don't know Deadzone, it's always an eye catcher usually, because it's so different, little play space. Oftentimes, if you're playing it a bit longer, great terrain, which is with height and so on, and no measurement like with sticks or So I think if it's played somewhere, it always is an eye catcher. We have just to play it somewhere. That's all.
Playing in shops is the way to go.
And if someone's interested in Kings of War and they go, wow, how could I get into this? Well, you can spend €200 and you can spend the next 6 months painting your army or whatever.
That's not true. Ambush is faster, but Deadzone is a lot faster.
Deadzone, give me €30 and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Paint 10 models, done. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So, where can people sign up, or where can they go to get details of the fantastic weekend on the 6th?
So the flyer is online in the Deadzone Germany, Austria, Switzerland Facebook group, and I've also posted it a while back, I think a month ago or so, in the Deadzone Fanatics group. There are the details on there, but there's also an email where you can message the tournament organizers for more information, for registration, etc. It's played. I think 3 to 4 games, about 150 points. And the email address, I think I can just say it, and maybe you include it in a link or in the description or something, is info@registrationdeadzone.de. remata.de. So info@remata.de.
Sounds easy enough. Is there also a T3 event? Or
I think there isn't a T3 event. T3 is used very much in Germany, yeah. But I think it's the first after I think 3 years or 4 years without a tournament. It's again to like test out if there is interest, and I think as far as I've heard there is interest. So maybe the next time it will be a bit bigger and more accessible for people who aren't in, let's say, the bubble of the locals or maybe Facebook groups.
And so
exciting.
Would you say the German Deadzone community, like there's a German-speaking Deadzone Facebook group, you would say that's the main spot for potential new joiners, or?
I think it's 3 places, to be honest. One place, the Deadzone Fanatics. The international group is very, very active, and I'm, to be honest, I use Facebook now only for my gaming needs. It's social media, but I have so many gaming groups there, especially the Mantic groups, which I think every Mantic Fanatic group is great. And so the Deadzone Fanatics is always good. The German speaking Deadzone group isn't that active because there aren't as many members. And if you post something, you can also post it just in the Fanatics. But it's nice to see someone posting about like local games in Germany or a nice club event someone made with a few players and so on. And it's just also to see that there are other German speaking players out there. I think we already touched on that subject quite a bit. So, but it's just that. And I think the third one is the already mentioned Tabletop Network, where since 3rd edition, there's always a bit, not that much, but here and there a bit of Deadzone content. And those players who play Deadzone are always hyping up comments about Deadzone. And you see that those who try it out, those who play, are fanatics indeed.
Super. Is there anything else we can do as a podcast to help?
I think, first of all, thanks for reaching out again. It's great that you had the idea to make it more public, to make people aware that there is interest, that there is something going on, even if it's baby steps maybe. But Deadzone is such a great game and just deserves more spotlight. So I think, first of all, doing this podcast is everything we need. We have the information there for those who are interested. If there's something new, if we can maybe plan something for the future, we can team up again. So those people who are interested or on the fence, I think I'm confident enough that we can say, just watch this space. I'll be back if you want me to. So of course,
absolutely,
yeah, very much so. And I would encourage people, if you're listening to this and you can't make this time, but you'd be interested in the future, put your hand up and just come and say hi, because just express an interest. It will make a huge difference to things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super.
I think having more gaming groups around the globe in different countries is great, because the focus often lies in those international groups, English-speaking groups, on the UK and on the US. So it's good to see more players. I think one country especially pops up in my mind: the Spanish Mantic players who raid the UK and win their tournaments there. So there are other nationalities and people.
That's
like
very much not like us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. No, great point.
So it's just good to see that there is more interest around. It's not that active. It's not that vocal sometimes, and I think the German ones aren't that vocal. because the French, as mentioned, have had the Kickstarter, which was great success as far as I've read. So yeah, just keep on trying out Deadzone. Maybe come to an event. Let's see some people to have interest to maybe drive around Germany and have a weekend somewhere, just having fun. So yeah, sounds great.
Amazing. Clem, anything to add?
Not much, except we've stole the idea with the gaming group here in Berlin to do a Deadzone gaming day. It was quite interesting because we have a very large Discord server for all sorts of tabletop games for Berlin. And there is a Deadzone channel and a small Deadzone group there, but it's not super, super active. And I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, someone there said, "Hey guys, why aren't we playing more? Like, why wouldn't we just do a gaming day soon?" And then out of nowhere, I think 5 or 6 people said, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." And so now we're organizing a gaming day also the weekend after yours. So it's the 13th of May, I believe. And we'll make it pretty small because that's really the first time. Like, we still have to build some terrain. I need to figure out how I want to build my terrain. Like, I have some left to assemble to make more tables. But yeah, so my point is, I think stuff is getting started and getting organized. And as we said, like, the more we play, the more people will join and realize how good the game is, and hopefully enjoy it more and play it more often, and travel for other events in the future. So yeah.
Yeah, and all that I can say there, which is allowed, I think, is the game will get better and even better. So I can't say anything official or unofficial, but just let it be known that, of course, in the background we are working on improving and doing something here and there. So yeah, maybe that will be enough.
Just let the inner Ronnie spill out the beat.
yeah, but I think Ronnie didn't sign any NDAs. So.
I mean, maybe he's the one ultimately responsible for it.
Yeah, true, it's a Mantic way to spoil the beans, but well, I don't want to test that water too much. So yeah, no, there will be some good things coming for Deadzone, and maybe that will be enough to get some lazy people, including me, to be more active here and there, and some others to join or organize gaming days, even if it's only with a few friends and locals, and then post about it and just be active. So
it's really exciting.
That's that.
Yeah, I'm going to very quickly edit this podcast, and then I'm going to go, and tonight I'm running some Firefight demos. So
great.
Yeah, super. Claudio, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. It's really exciting, to be honest, and particularly at the end there, you just casually dropping that little cherry on the cake, as it were. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm already really looking forward to meeting you down the road and rolling some dice and laughing at your expense. So,
so yeah, I'm up to it. For the 3rd time, thanks for having me. It was a great chat. Much fun. I always love to hear me talking. So I hope to see you at some point in the near future at some event or some meetup, or even just for the podcast for next time. So looking forward to that.
Perfect. Thanks, Claudio.
Thank you. Bye.